Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And the Giants are signing wide receiver. They signed Parris Campbell, Darius Slayton, Jeff Smith, and Jihad Ward is back. Justin, we're going to break it all down. How are you?
Bobby, this Giants offense is going to look different this year. At least it's going to look different when you compare things to week 1 of 2022 and then week 1 of 2023. They're adding speed. They're getting faster. The goal is to get more explosive, and at least with bringing back Slayton, getting Parris Campbell, and then obviously trading for Darren Waller, that's what they're doing, man.
The quotes coming out of the combine, which was like Daniel Jeremiah talking to people within the Giants building and Joe Shane or whoever, saying like that we need more speed on this offense. We want to be more explosive. We need to add more speed. Obviously, Darren Waller is a huge part of that. I think it's forgotten in the whole we need a wide receiver one topic. You add Parris Campbell's speed. You add Darius Slayton's speed, but they also said we need guys that we can move around the field. Like we need those smart type of receivers that can move around the field. Well, Waller's someone you move around the field. Parris Campbell has that outside-inside flexibility. In fact, he's swapped that. Slayton's more of an outside guy, but that speed of Slayton is absolutely needed. So we're going to break it all down. First, this episode was brought to you by some special people, and we love these people, and we rely on these people. Michael Nady, or Natty. I don't know which one it is.
Natty Daddy.
Natty Daddy. Let's win some games. Nick Manella, like a Manella folder, and Phil Suffredini. He's suffering through the Giants not having a wide receiver one. Justin, who are these people?
Suffering through the Giants not having a wide receiver one, but I think that's okay for now. We're going to talk about it. Patreon.com/TalkGiants. You know the drill. These are some of our favorite people in the entire world. We love them so much. It's a great community of Giants fans. Just had a conversation about what we're going to be doing giveaway-wise. Maybe we'll announce that on Friday. Patreon.com/Talking Giants. They know what the giveaway is. You don't know it yet. How about that?
All right, Justin. So we'll go into Parris Campbell first because he's the new addition. We know who Darius Slayton is, but we want to talk about him and break him down and all that good stuff. So the Giants signed Parris Campbell, who was a second-round pick for the Colts in 2019. He's 25 years old. This contract is kind of a doozy on what exactly it is in it. So basically it's a base of 1 year, $3 million, where you have a base salary of $1.4 million, a workout bonus in there, plus $1.5 million signing bonus. So at the minimum, it's basically guaranteed of $3 million in this deal. And then it can go up to $6.7 million. He has a $100,000 per game bonus, which he's missed a lot of games in his career. And then bonuses for like 55, 65, 75 catches, 700, 800, so on yards, 4, 6, 8 touchdowns, and then bonuses for leading the team in those 3 categories. So I actually did the math, and if he repeated the same exact season that he did last year, which was the first time he played 17 games, he would have hit the reception bonus. He would have led the Giants in receiving, and that would have put him at about $5 million contract. So for a guy like Parris Campbell, a $5 million 1 year contract is a really good deal, Justin.
Yeah, so a lot of people think, like in my brain when this first happened, I'm thinking this is the Richie James replacement, and it kind of is. But when you include the outside inside versatility that kind of Joe Shane's looking for, that's where Parris Campbell can kind of bring something else to the table, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a Richie James improvement with more versatility and more upside into it. Now here's my only caveat though. Like the thing that I'm going to be looking forward to most in training camp when it relates to Parris Campbell, and even hearing reports out of the spring, because Parris Campbell is a better athlete. He's faster. He creates more separation. Parris Campbell is a much better football player than Richie James. And the outside-inside versatility makes him better. I'd say he's better, not much better.
And especially after the catch, too. Richie James kind of just fell down. Kind of crazy how bad Richie James was after the catch. What Richie James was best at, though, was the connection that he had with the quarterbacks. Like we heard over the spring, Richie James has a good connection with Tyrod Taylor. And then when everybody and their mothers started to get hurt, Richie James has a good connection with Daniel Jones. And we saw that in camp. So it wasn't even a matter of James is this great football player, but he just has this really great connection and
he's a smarter football player.
Rapport with the quarterbacks. That is what I'm going to be looking forward to Parris Campbell doing and creating with the quarterbacks this spring and early this summer.
Yeah, and that's where he's not the same player. He's not as up to snuff as Richie James in those type of categories. Not necessarily rapport the quarterbacks, but like the nuances of route running and some of the stuff like identifying coverages and knowing where to sit. So he is fast though. Like he is an athlete. He's ran a 4.31 at the combine. He's 6'1". So and he does have that outside inside versatility, Justin. Where like last year he played mostly in the slot, 77%. The year before, though, he played 91% on the outside. The year before, 95% in the slot. And then his rookie year, he played basically 50-50, but with edging to the outside. But at the same time, last year was the first time he played 17 games, or even close to 17 games. I mean, he's missed 34 of 66 games in his career. More than half of the games, and he just came off of a full season. So before this season, he had a total of 49 games. He missed 34 of them, and people have, because he had a broken foot that was one of the injuries. But there's been a lot of very much like reoccurring injuries that can happen too, like MCL sprain, PCL sprain, abdomen strains. Like so, those are the type of injuries that can be reoccurring, and that's why he's not commanding very much money. And he had a good year. He had 63 catches for 623 yards. Not a great year. Part of that is the Colts offense is just dreadful to watch. Their quarterback situation truly was the worst in the NFL. Like it wasn't as bad as end of 2021 Giants with Glennon and Fromm, but it's like the next level above that. So this year he played in the slot, but I don't think playing him in the slot full time is his best place either. Like he's kind of a speed guy who can win outside with quick breaks, and he can take the top off of a defense. I don't think plays as fast as the 4.31 40 is. Like he's not a total burner, but he's just a really fast guy.
And I think the injuries have
coming out of Ohio State, by the way, he was the yak king. Like he was him and Terry McLaurin were just nuts together. So let me break him down as a player. In the slot, he's good. Like he's quick. He can, get the ball in those short spaces, and he gets yak. But he does need to improve as a route runner. Like there is things, and it's some of the same things that Wandale needs to improve. But I think Wandale's a little bit of a better athlete right now. But at the same time, Parris Campbell's 6'1". There's times where he will telegraph his route. The Landon Collins pick six versus the Colts was Nick Foles' fault, but it was a clear Parris Campbell, where it was a bad, and not even just a lazy route that telegraphed it and let Landon Collins jump that and get a pick six. So there's things like that where he just telegraphs his route. He can gear down too much. But his route running, Justin, is better on the outside. Now, he's not going to be someone who dominates on the outside, but it is better on the outside where he's able to build up speed, and leverage can come to you a little quicker, and you're not having to think as much out there, where it's like he did have that big 50-yard catch on the go ball. There was some sick like post corner routes he had working on the outside in 2021. So some good stuff out there, but at the end of the day, his route running needs a ton of growth, but I think he's going to really benefit, and this is the awesome thing about having Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, is these guys are going to see what he does well. They're going to work on to get his weaknesses better, but they're going to put him in the right situations. They're not going to play him the exact same way they use Richie James.
Yeah, for sure. Some stats. That's what we do. Bobby gives you film, I give you stats. Parris Campbell ranked 11th in the NFL in wide receiver separation, according to Next Gen, with the wide receivers of a minimum of 45 targets. Now, that separation is at the time of a target, not necessarily, just all plays in general. So Parris Campbell, 11th in the NFL in wide receiver separation. His yards per route run ranking within 0 to 9 yards with a minimum of 45 targets. He was 14th last year. Richie James was 9th. So I foresee, in a better system, that Parris Campbell, hopefully he plays games, hopefully he gets enough targets, hopefully he creeps his way up, maybe even to the top 10, maybe even a little bit higher than Richie James. Yards per route run. It's not even necessarily it's not a volume metric. It's kind of like an efficiency metric. It's a rate metric, right? Quick timing routes. This is where I think Parris Campbell's gonna really eat. Quick timing routes. I think that's gonna help the Giants on early downs. Especially with the mentality of the Giants had towards the last quarter of the season, Bobby. out routes. We saw him run a lot of out routes. You broke it down in your film breakdown. A lot of out routes Parris Campbell had. And then I even think deep curls on third downs as well.
He's good at those, for the
way
most
that
part.
he's able to sell his routes vertically. And also, another stat for you, 40% of Parris Campbell's targets came from the short center and intermediate center part of the field from this past year, and that's according to PFF. And something that was missing from this offense this past year, Bobby, was utilizing the middle of the field. They really just didn't. And even in the intermediate, like 0 to 9 yards, kind of, but especially 10 to 19 yards, forget 20 plus yards, but the 10 to 19 yard mark, we really didn't utilize the middle of the field inside the hashes a lot, and especially when you compare it to other teams around the NFL, we really did not. So 40% of Parris Campbell's targets came from the center part of the field, and hopefully we can utilize that more this year.
Yeah, and that's putting him on slants and drags and stuff like that. And that's kind of stuff where there's nuances to it, but it's a lot of like, let your speed shine, let you be a yak type of guy. And I think that's where he can play his best. And again, the Colts offense was totally hampered by their quarterback situation. Yeah. Like, I think that needs to be remembered. Like, he looked better, even though he had better, like, less production, that he looked better with other quarterbacks. Like, him on the outside with Carson Wentz, he looked like a better player, but just their offense was so, I'm telling you, it was very ugly to watch. But at the same time, he needs to get better at his releases. They need to be more technical. And then his route running. Like, there is some sloppiness in his route running for a guy who was in his fourth year. Here's the thing I'm going to be the most interested by is how much do they want to play him on the outside? Or are they going to try and turn him into the slot guy? Like, eventually Wandale's going to come back. You put a high premium pick in Wandale, but this is only a 1-year contract. So this could be like the take your time and get fully healthy Wandale type stuff. So where they use him, which eventually the answer is going to be everywhere, but there's going to be a role that he's going to have to settle into for the most part as well.
And now with adding Slayton back, getting Parris Campbell in here, they, in a perfect world, let's say week one, 5 out of the, let's not include Colin Johnson. Let's say Shep, Wandale, Isaiah Hodgins, Parris Campbell, Darius Slayton. Those guys are ready to rock and roll. Maybe there's a draft pick in there too, right? Those guys are ready to rock and roll. I can envision, remember the early part of the season where Kenny Golladay would play a week, then they would sit him, and then they would play somebody else, and then it would be a David Sills week, and then they would sit him. That could be maybe what we see. Like, we could see an Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton week on the outside with somebody in the slot primarily. And then the next week, we could see a Parris Campbell on the outside week with Darius Slayton, and Isaiah Hodgins is sitting on the bench. Like, do you envision that maybe happening?
Shepard is kind of the key to that because Shepard is also the outside-inside flexible type player.
Yeah.
Shep, this regime tried to use Shep on the outside, and he's fine out there. The last regime used him in both, and then the year before, basically every regime's used him in both. But I'm not putting any eggs in the Sterling Shepard basket. So I think they're just going to move these guys all around and have some type of rotation.
Yeah.
Like someone's gonna have to establish themselves as the number one outside guy, whether that's Hodgins or Slayton, and then they're gonna use all these guys, and they do that in Buffalo too. They do use a lot of different guys. Yeah, man.
Darren Waller's the big wild card too. How often do they put him outside? But the thing that's on my brain with this Campbell signing, and I'm getting, this is more fan Justin rather than like analyst Justin per se. We're bringing in another guy with major red flags with injuries.
That has to be worried about.
We're bringing him onto a team that is an offense that's full of injuries and a team that historically just has a shit ton of injuries, no matter what regime it is.
Signing a guy like Parris Campbell made the Slayton signing so much more important because
a huge breath I took.
Slayton's availability. Like, there was talk about Mecole Hardman. I'm not a big Mecole Hardman fan. It's like I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know his game in and out, but it's like at some point maybe produce in Kansas City. And then DJ Shark, I think, is a better wide receiver than Slayton, but I don't think he's a better wide receiver for what the Giants need, where Shark is fast, but Slayton is a different type of play, like play speed fast.
Shark also struggles with injuries.
And that was going to be my thing. The biggest thing with Shark is the injuries. So Slayton's hugely needed. We can move on to Slayton. I mean, do you have anything else on Parris Campbell that you wanted to hit on?
No, I mean, I like the sign. It's the same thing as Darren Waller, except
Darren Waller is an amazing player.
He's an amazing player, but it's the same thing where there's no risk here. It's a 1-year deal. The Giants aren't paying 1 year $20 million for a player. They're paying a player who's gonna earn around half of his contract in incentives if he does play well,
or just plays too,
but still. We're looking at the depth chart, and I feel better. I feel much better, and I'm really excited for what the Giants are going to be able to do next. Whether it is adding somebody else in free agency, or I kind of hope that now, okay, we're going to transition to adding pieces in the draft. But there's going to come a point where you're going to carry six receivers going into the season on the team. 6 receivers, maybe 7, are going to make the 53-man roster, and we're getting to that point where we're getting close to that.
Yeah, but they did that at the start of last year too. I mean, they had 7 wide receivers on the roster at 53-man cutdown day.
But it's like, who are you going to let go? Like, who is not? Colin Johnson, fine. Like, that's the one where it's like.
So you have Slayton, Parris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Sterling Shepard, Wandale. That's 5. You add one more in the draft, that's 6. If you got to let Colin Johnson go, you let him go. If you got to carry 7, you carry 7. Like they carried 7 after 53-man cutdown day last year. Yeah. So
I hope that they add 2 in the draft. Like that's my expectation. Like I want to have 2 wide receivers that are drafted, and they're on the team for 4, maybe 5 years. So we'll see what they do. I'm excited, but there's just so many guys that are hurt, and there's so many guys with injury histories, and Parris Campbell is now being added to the list of guys who have those histories.
Yeah, the risk is not like, oh, this puts the team in huge issues going forward. The risk is like for this season, because they do want to win this season. I don't think they have delusions of Super Bowl this season, but they do want to win, and winning matters, even if you don't have a Super Bowl roster.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry. We didn't really talk about Parris Campbell a lot after the catch. He is an improvement over Richie. I think that's the biggest improvement over Richie James, is just his speed and his ability after the catch. I saw this a few times in the few games that I watch. He seems to have a great feel when to turn up field, like kind of near the sideline, and he seems to have a great feel on where to go with the ball to utilize and optimize getting the most yards after the catch. So many times guys just like sprint to the sideline and leave yak on the field, which kind of sucks. But Campbell turns up field. He changes direction. There was the speed sweep that you showed against Washington, where he could have kind of just sped towards the sideline and then maybe get a few extra yards. Instead, he kind of changes direction, cuts up field, cuts towards midfield, is still continuing to go north and south, and he winds up adding like an additional 20 yards onto the play. And there was even maybe a couple plays against Tennessee, where you did a film breakdown where he kind of cuts up field and he does a nice job of getting yards after the catch. And that's big. That's going to be big in this offense, in this stable offense, in this Kafka offense, Buffalo, Kansas City Mines. Those offenses utilize yards after the catch well, and that's only going to help Daniel Jones. Like everything shouldn't have to be on Daniel Jones being totally perfect and guys just falling down after they catch. So after they get the catch, so speed, yak, being smart with the ball in your hands. Parris Campbell, be healthy.
Darius Slayton is back, and I'll be honest, I'm excited that Darius Slayton is back, Justin. He got a 2-year, $12 million contract. I think the guarantees are kind of tied up in the first year, and up to $16 million in incentives. And I'm just, he's the first day 3 draft pick to re-sign with the Giants since Ahmad Bradshaw, back when they didn't even have a day 3 in the draft. But if you're just talking 4th through 7th rounders. I'm just happy for the person himself. He proved himself. This regime left him for dead. He was on the 3rd. They never gave him even a chance in training camp. He was with the 3rd string the entire time. Then they were actively shopping him, trying to trade him. And when no one would trade for him, they offered him a pay cut and he took it. And he didn't have to, but he took a pay cut and then started week 1, was a healthy scratch, inactive, not wearing a uniform for the first time in his career. Finally, they got to play him, and they play him a few snaps, he produces. They play him more snaps, and he was their wide receiver 1 again, led the Giants in receiving for the 3rd time in his 4th season. Quick trivia, who was the other person who led it the one of the other 4 years?
This is receivers, not...
Just receiving yards.
Receiving, Evan Ingram.
No, Kenny Golladay last year. 2021. Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Slayton missed games last year, right? 4 games?
Last year? Yeah, basically, he didn't play at all the first 2 games, really. The Dallas game, they gave him like 10 snaps, and then week 17, or week 18, they rested starters. He actually had to go on the field for 1 snap. So led the Giants in receiving for 3 of the last 4 years. So credit to him for persevering through all of that. Persevering through that. And also, Julian made this comment in the chat, and I stole it for a tweet.
And you're taking all my responding points right now.
That's what producers... All right, go. Who else are we giving credit to, Justin?
I'm giving credit to the Giants because I thought he was gone. I thought he was done. I'm like, yeah, Darius Slayton's not coming back. They hate him. And I literally made a video. I made like a YouTube short, and I made like a reel analyzing like Joe Shane said at the combine, we need speed and separation. So then my brain goes to, it's like, why do you hate Darius Slayton? I understand he doesn't have great separation, but he's literally like the best speed option that you have on the roster right now. And like, if you put Darius Slayton on any kind of random NFL team, guarantee he kind of starts there as well. He's not a wide receiver 1, may not even be a wide receiver 2, but he would get significant playing time on an average NFL roster. So it kind of boggled my mind, especially during training. It boggled both of our minds through training camp and in the early part of the season. Why do they hate Darius Slayton? Is it only the separation? Because he has the speed that any offense kind of wants. So this is credit to the Giants, because I thought he was gone. Like I said, I thought he was done. Credit to the Giants for bringing somebody back who he's been reliable, but unreliable in sometimes the worst of ways and in the worst of moments. But that's the biggest red flag with him, but he has been a reliable player for them throughout his entire tenure as a Giant so far.
Yeah, I mean, one, he's just been available with injuries. He missed the first 2 games of his rookie year, and then he missed 2 games in 2021 due to injury. But he is a flawed player. I am excited to have him back, but he is a flawed player. The drops are obviously the thing we point to. He's not an amazing route runner. He's a good route runner. He's actually even gotten better in his route running too. Especially this past season. But again, he led the Giants receiving 3 of the last 4 years. He had 14 20-plus yard plays in 15 games. And he had some big plays that don't count on the stat book. Pass interference versus the Jags. Daniel Jones QB sneak 1-yard touchdown. Offensive pass interference versus the Bears. They score on that drive on a 50-yard pass interference. Offensive pass interference versus the Ravens. The Giants had to kick a field goal instead of being able to score a touchdown right after. So his speed... The Giants don't make the playoffs with Darius Slayton off the roster. Like, if they decide to be like, all right, we're going to save the $1.5 million, or if he doesn't take the pay cut and goes and signs with another team, the Giants are flat out not in the playoffs. And he responded with career highs in catch rate, career highs in yards per catch. And then when you take into factor, if you just like eliminate the games where he played like 2 or 3 snaps in the beginning of the season, he had career highs in yards per game too. So he was much needed. His big playability is definitely needed. Like, his reliability matched with the big playability was 100% needed on this Giants team, where they needed some stability at the wide receiver room, because we talked about Parris Campbell's injury history, Darren Waller's injury history, Sterling Shepard, Wandale, everybody is injured on this roster except for 2 receivers, Isaiah Hodgins and Daniel Bellinger, who neither one of them are fast. They're the only slow players on the offense now. You needed someone that you can rely to be on the field, who has that rapport with Daniel Jones, who has not produced like a wide receiver 1, even though he's been put in that role. And that was needed, despite the fact that he drops about 5 to 7 passes a year.
Yeah. 1 out of every 10 passes, basically. That's been like the drop rate that he's been floating around like the last 3 years, which is not great.
Horrible.
Which is not
it's
great.
horrible. It's a flat out horrible drop rate.
Yeah.
He has one of the worst drop rates of the year on a year-to-year basis. If you look at the last 3 years, he might be number one in that. I think he might even be number one.
Yeah. But 14 20-plus yard receptions. No other Giants receiver had 3 this past year. No other Giants skill position player had 3 20-plus yard receptions. And, Bobby, this is what I really want to get to. I finally feel like with the depth that we're hopefully going to continue to add this offseason, now kind of looking towards the draft, I really think this will be the year that Darius Slayton gets back to kind of that 2019 form where hopefully there is finally a freaking offense that will take more deep shots on a consistent basis. This is what they're doing. They're adding speed. They're adding Waller. They're adding Parris Campbell. So hopefully Darius Slayton is now in a spot where he is not going to be the number one target getter. Honestly, hopefully that's Darren Waller, the number one target getter on this offense.
Yes, Darren Waller's so huge for this offense if he stays. Like, him staying healthy is the number one factor on how good this offense can be outside of Daniel Jones.
Right. But Darius Slayton, if everybody's kind of there, if Campbell's kind of on the outside, inside versatility, if Darren Waller's doing what he needs to do, Darius Slayton can maybe return back to that big play Slay 2019 form where even if the catch rate's a little lower, his average depth of target is higher, more 20-plus yard plays, more production, more fun.
And how many times did he create big plays with David Sills and Marcus Johnson on the field? Like, having other weapons helps everybody. It helps everybody. Having Parris Campbell helps Darius Slayton. Having Darren Waller helps Darius Slayton a ton. And having Darius Slayton helps Darren Waller too. Yeah. Like, if Darren Waller's your only like really deep threat, well, it's not as easy. But if you have Darius Slayton, it makes his life easier. It makes everybody's life easier. So I am very happy that he's back. It's a reasonable contract. In fact, it came in less than what I thought he would end up getting. There's reports that the Falcons offered a little bit more, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I've learned that I said after the TJ Edwards stuff, I'm no longer believing free agency rumor reports.
However, I mean, that prediction that you had, incredible.
Oh, I had like a 15-second, like, while I was drinking my coffee this morning where I was like, really don't want to lose Darius Slayton, but it's going to be an awesome quote tweet when I got the Nick Gates and the Darius Slayton moves
to the
correct.
Falcons.
And then I was like that's only going to feel good for 15 seconds, and then you're going to be mad that we're signing signing injury-prone DJ Shark.
Yeah,
Shark.
Yeah, for sure.
Shark.
Yeah, you've said that twice now. It's okay. I let you go with it.
I type it out too, and then I'm like, oh, his name is not Shark. I would
DJ
know it
Shark?
if his name was Shark.
Yeah, that'd be a lot more funnier. I think I would actually want him to be a Giant, just to see Shark on the back of a Giants jersey.
That would be. I would get that jersey. I mean, and here's another thing: is he is I just like Darius Slayton as a person. I kind of want to get him on the pod now that he's re-signed.
He's a funny dude.
I actually reached out to his agency after 2019. Didn't really get anything back. Now that we got a little more pull than we did in 2019, maybe we'll try and get Darius Slayton on the pod.
We have a PR guy that can do that.
Yeah, but I don't like doing interviews through a PR guy.
I know.
Because then they just treat it like any old interview.
Hey, I have an idea.
Giants...
That won't be any old interview.
The Giants...
You're going to ignore my idea.
I don't feel like telling everyone that idea, because if it doesn't end up happening... I know, because
it's not official. Can you talk about something first?
I was going to say the Giants signed Jihad Ward, but before we talk about Jihad Ward, today's episode is brought to you by the Tropical Hockey League. Let's get tropical. The Tropical Hockey League is a professional roller hockey league where all of the teams will be owned by their fans.
What?
Those aren't questions. Those are statements. Located along the Gulf Coast of Florida, the THL, short for the Tropical Hockey League, is the first of its kind league of entirely fan-owned teams, seeking to make the game of inline hockey faster, like the Giants' offense got today, more free-flowing, like license plates guys' hair, and exciting, Like Darren Waller highlights, the THL will provide affordable, accessible fun for people of all ages. So my nephew William, who's like a month and a half old, he can go have fun. And you can become an owner today by investing. Investors, possibly
Maybe you. Oh, got that wrong.
That's right. By investing in a team, you can become an owner and have a vote in the way your team is run. Check out their WeFunder page today and become a part of sports history. The link will be in our description for the podcast. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm rooting for the Daytona Anglers. I'm angling for the Anglers. Justin, Jihad Ward's back. Hottie's back.
Flip the middle finger. Hi, you can't see Bobby because I'm talking.
Jihad Ward.
Oh!
So we got to do the... We need to... All right, you do double bird now. All right, so we need to get a photo collage of Jihad Ward doing the double bird, Eli Manning doing the double bird, and us doing the double bird.
And then me. Oh, you can see it now. I'm putting it away.
So obviously, we don't know the contract details on this. We retired the phrase "assuming it's the minimum" after 2021 free agency. We were
Devontae Booker. Assume it's the minimum.
Austin Johnson. So he's a good run defender. Like that's we all know. Like we watched Jihad Ward for a full season. He is a good run defender. And he's obviously a huge presence in the locker room. Wink Martindale loves him. You know, Wink Martindale said, as long as I have a job, Jihad Ward has a job, which is just gives Jihad Ward the best leverage of all time in any contract negotiations.
What's up with that?
So we talked about it in our upcoming free agent episode. Like I wanted Jihad Ward back, at least on the minimum or close to the minimum. But with this, Justin, a need that's not brought up as much is the Giants need a third rusher who has some pass rush ability, because Jihad Ward has none. And Azeez Ojulari, with his injury issues that popped up time and time again last year, we kind of need someone else out there who can rush the passer, because the Giants, when Azeez Ojulari was out of the lineup, you had Kayvon Thibodeau, who was streaky as a rookie. And you had nobody else on the edge that could rush the passer. Like Jihad Ward gives you zero pass rush ability. O'Shane Ximines gave you zero pass rush ability. I think that's an underrated need for the Giants.
Yeah, I agree. In the second year of Joe Shane, Brian Dable, there are some positions that they kind of they're of dire need and they just need bodies and stuff like that. But then there are some positions that they're kind of looking to round out, and the edge seems to be like one of those positions that if we round it out, we can have a really nice little unit here if we do it right.
Yeah, and you just want you want a nice rotation too. Like, let Jihad Ward be in there for some running situations and other situations. Like it's nice to have that's a good position to have a rotation at, like keeping guys fresh. So I don't have a ton on Jihad Ward. I wish he'd unblock everybody on Twitter. Like I think there's this thing, it's called like nuke block or something like that. I've seen someone I follow like bring it up before, and I think you can just like block everyone who liked one tweet, and he must have done that.
I think
but then he blocked us on Instagram too, so it's like he went out of his way a little bit to block everybody.
I honestly think, and you know what, I don't mind when athletes do this. First of all, I think Jihad Ward's a psychopath. Like and I'm not saying that like football wise, and maybe even in real life too. He's like flying around with.
But
those,
we love psychopaths. We're a culture of violence.
We do. We are a culture of violence. He's a violent football player. Like he kind of plays it violent, and he celebrates very like with violence. So I don't blame athletes when they go out of their way to block like a lot of content people, because that's what Jihad Ward did. Like anybody with some sort of semblance of following, is it even people that don't,
people too though,
and some random people too. He's gone out of his way to block certain people, and I don't mind that. Maybe he just doesn't want to see what people have to say, which, fine.
I kind of get that. I mean, I did that with a content person. I was just like, I'm not blocking you because I was like, I'm just so tired of seeing your shit. I'm blocking you.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of you seeing my stuff too.
Wonder who that is.
It's Alex Wilson.
Oh,
okay. The Giants signed, speaking of generic names, Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith. They signed a wide receiver from the Jets. 6'1", 195 pounds, 25 years old. He's a fast player, another 4.3 speed guy.
All right.
He was a former quarterback at Boston College before moving to wide receiver. He's been mostly a gunner for the Jets, and he actually even caught a pass when they ran a fake punt week 2 versus the Jets from that gunner spot. And then he'll get some wide receiver snaps here and there. He lines up on the outside. Obviously has that speed, so he averages like 18 yards per catch. But again, he's getting like 8 catches a year. Jeff Smith.
Special teams.
Yeah, if you don't know anything about a guy, just say special teams. But I actually talked to Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the Jets, if you don't remember him.
Wow.
And he said he's a special teams guy. He caught a touchdown versus the Giants in preseason. Can you name the closest defender to him when he scored that touchdown?
Sugar.
I'll give you a hint. It's a safety.
Trenton Thompson.
Oh, you got it. It was Trenton Thompson.
Bang. Not great in coverage, but fun player.
I think he's on a futures, right? Is Trenton Thompson on a futures?
I think he's around. Hey, another special teams guy with plus upside.
He was just like a 7th-year senior, so it was like hard to get excited about his game. It's like, well, you should be good by now at San Diego State. Teammate of Daniel Bellinger. Let's see.
Jeff Smith. Renato. Do you know Renato? Renato Rodriguez. He sent me a text message about Jeff
Thompson.
Smith.
Yeah, Trenton Thompson's on the team. He signed a futures.
Let's see.
Everyone loves Jeff Smith. Our guy, Joe Roselle, he knows him, and he sent me a text about him. He's like a really good dude. Also, now that Isaiah Hodgins kind of broke out, we get to compare every single guy who has like 8 catches per year to Isaiah Hodgins. This coaching staff's going to get the most out of him, that's for sure.
That's for sure. What was the he was from Alabama on the Bills. He was like
Reuben
on the practice
squad. Not Reuben Foster. Ramon. No, not Ramon Foster. It was
Reuben. It's Reuben Foster.
No, Reuben
Robert
Foster.
Foster.
Yeah,
Robert Foster. This Jeff Smith signing has Robert Foster vibes.
Yeah, because that was so this was the 3rd signing they made in free agency, but the Robert Foster was the first one they made last year. So we're like, who's this guy?
Oh.
And it's like, oh, he's kind of a camp body. So Jeff Smith will be a camp body battling to get on the roster through special teams. And hopefully he's never playing wide receiver, because if he's playing wide receiver, that means the wide receiver room has all the fears that we talked about earlier with injuries being banged up have come to pass.
Who's Jeff Smith's best friend on the team going to be?
Lawrence Cager did catch a pass right before him. He's 25. I think
him and Cam Brown are going to be tight. Like, oh, we're special teams guys.
But guys hang out with the position they play at the end of the day. Like
special teams.
Yeah, but
it's a position.
You're in a position room. I'm going to say, I think him and Parris Campbell will kind of get along pretty well.
All right, the 2 new guys?
Yeah, 2 new guys, same age.
Jeff Smith from New York. Hey, Parris Campbell, this is where you got. I know where to go. This is where you got to go.
What do you think about Julian Love probably not coming back? We'll do a full analysis on this whenever he does sign somewhere. But
I need to see what he signs for.
Yeah, if he signs for cheap somewhere else, I'll be disappointed. But that was we said it on the Eagles recap loss pod from the playoffs. I was like, that might be my unpopular let walk, because he's kind of the jack of all trades, master of none type safety, who you need those type of players, but you don't need to pay them premium money.
What happened from, like,
there was a thought that they were going to get a deal done during the bye.
That's kind of an L. They should have done it.
No, but Julian Love, there was reporting saying like that basically they're going to get they made it seem like there's going to be a bye week deal done. Julian Love declined, I guess turned it down, obviously.
Oh, he turned it down. Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they negotiated and he turned down what their offer was.
But what happened from preseason where like everybody needs Julian Love's? Did he just like get
Julian Love
better?
Played himself into a bigger contract.
Okay, played him. He got better, but he didn't get that.
He played in a full-time role.
Yeah,
and he had some good moments. He was a captain. he played
we knew
more
he
snaps.
would be in a full-time role, though. Like, we knew that for the season. We were
but until you see a guy play and play well in that full-time role, and there was low moments for him too, more towards the end of the year, but there was also some really good moments, and he was a little bit of the glue of the defense for a little while too. That was there. Also, Saquon turning down a $12.5 million or $13 million a year contract is certifiably insane. We knew this was going to happen with the running back contracts, and you can't compare it to like Jamal Williams. He got a bunch of 1-yard touchdowns. He doesn't have the pedigree. He's old. He's older. But it's like you knew, like Miles Sanders barely got it. Like Miles Sanders has been very productive and is younger than Saquon Barkley. Obviously playing behind much better offensive line. But he doesn't have the. I don't know.
The only position that's getting paid right now is
defensive
D-line.
Tackle.
D-line. Yeah. That's it. We thought that like Jacoby Myers would get freaking paid. He didn't get paid. He got paid nothing.
The only team that we thought might be willing to pay Saquon Barkley was the Bears, and they gave Deontay Foreman 1 year, $3 million.
Do you know that? Reportedly, do you know what team? The team that was also
Giants.
in,
but that was Aaron Wilson, and we have a Talking Giants rule that we cannot use Aaron Wilson as reporting because he's literally burned us too many times.
Anybody with the last name Wilson,
basically. Is there any Wilsons that we like?
Wilson,
Russell Wilson, no,
no. He was going to be the Giants' quarterback at one point.
It is crazy how much Russell Wilson fell off.
There's a YouTube video of us talking about will Russell Wilson be the Giants quarterback.
Yeah. I can't believe he fell off so hard.
Sean Payton. Yeah, I did not foresee the running back market being this bad.
I kind of did.
I didn't foresee the wide receiver market being this bad.
The wide receiver market, I didn't expect this to be this low. What is Richie James going to get? Like, could Richie James come back on a $2 million contract?
I want that. I want him back. Let's make it a party.
It might make sense if it's $2 million a year,
I thought he would get like $4 million, and I was done.
Yeah, but now it's like, I don't, if, Parris Campbell probably has
stupid idiot.
More like, more market value than him, but I guess you could argue both ways on that.
We need to make the show more like this. I feel very relaxed right now. I'm dropping jokes, calling myself a stupid idiot.
But like, do you think the Giants are almost like, hey, yeah, we're pulling that offer? I guarantee you that Joe Shane is hoping that he just I don't know.
They should have never given him that offer to begin with.
No,
they should have just franchise tagged him.
We knew this was going to happen. Even if you didn't see the running back contracts being like this, you knew that it wasn't going to be you knew that Saquon Barkley was not going to go out and get the contract that he wanted unless the Bears. And even then that was just like people being like, yeah, the Bears are kind of dumb, then they have money, they'll do it. There was no there was no real dot connecting there. And they have Khalil Herbert, who has been very productive for them too.
Where's David Montgomery in all this?
He signed with the Lions.
Ooh,
I think 3 years, $12 million.
Goodbye, Jamal Williams. The Lions, David Montgomery, and DeAndre Swift.
They don't like DeAndre Swift at all.
Tough.
They kind of hate DeAndre. They don't want to play him.
What was I going to say? I just ate some chapstick.
Let's just end this episode.
It was bad.
We'll be back. We'll be back most likely Tuesday unless there is big news, which I'd be shocked if there's any big news at this point. So,
yeah. Can I tell you what I've been doing in the title descriptions recently? I didn't do it for the Darren Waller episode because it was kind of shorter, and also how many different topics do we talk about in a Darren Waller episode? But what I've been doing is I've been putting and I try and do this at the end. Remember I asked you like an Odell question last week? Like, do you think Odell's going to come back? And you said no. And it was like a 5-second conversation. I did put Odell in like the title description part of the podcast. So what people did is they jumped to that part of the podcast where it said Odell 44 minutes. and they heard me ask the question, they heard you say no, and then you ended the show. So my goal is for the end of every podcast, I'm giving away the secrets. I'm going to put
But you don't
something.
want people doing that though.
I'm going to make people listen to the end or click on that description so they can jump to the end to see what happened or what we said. And I think the final one that I'm going to put is Justin Ate Chapstick.
All right, that's awesome. All right, we appreciate you guys. We'll be back. Enjoy your weekend. I'm sure we'll have some new players, some lesser known guys. We'll have film breakdowns out on them. Check them out, all the ones that are out now. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.